very fine to start off the layering of flavours. What I want is to put lots of flavour in here, and onions and chilies and peppers and basil are going to go so well with this dish. You can leave this as rough as you want or chunky, but for me, nice and fine like this, it'll cook very, very quickly. There we go. And I'll take that off there, and you can see this is browning up nicely. Any other little bits that aren't brown, don't worry, they'll start browning off in this pan here. Look at that. It's sizzling. That's what you want to hear when you're cooking, don't you? And then I'll grab these onions straight into the pan here like this, and these will start sweating down nicely. Now with the chilies, all I do is just cut them straight through the middle here like this, and then all I do is just take these seeds out. Now the seeds on the long red chilies aren't so hot, but the habanero here, this is the killer. This one's going to hurt. If you like it hot, this is what you want to put in there. And I only recommend putting one at a time, because these can get quite dangerous. So cut these through the middle here like this, and all I do is just cut them into little tiny dices like this, because when I'm eating this dish, I want to taste the chili. I want little chunks of chili all the way through it so I can actually enjoy the flavour that I'm putting in there. Beautiful. Now the habaneros, I'll cut that in half like that, and very carefully with my knife, I'll just take out the green part there and most of those seeds. This chili is going to hurt, and it's going to hurt a lot, but in a very nice kind of way. Well, if you like that kind of thing anyway. So what I'll do is I'll be very sneaky. I'll cut the habanero into the same sort of shape and size as the long red chili. So whoever comes and eats this will get a little surprise, won't they? So I'll cut that straight to you like that. I can just smell the aroma of the habanero. It's so intense and so lovely. There we go. Straight in there like that. Give that a bit of a toss. Now, as I'm cooking dishes like this, I always add just a tiny bit of salt so I can layer it up a little bit at a time. So get a lovely flavour into it, and you're just adding flavour to it every time you do it. Now, these capsicums, it's sort of like the cool part to the chilies. You have a bite of this, gives you a bit of refreshing refreshness, and then you have a bite of chili, and it comes back to bite you again. And then into the pan. You can see this is starting to colour up nicely. I don't want too much colour on there, but I want that flavour. Give that a bit of a stir around like that. I can smell the habanero in there. I'm just tweaking. I just know that that's going to be beautiful. Now I've got some basil here. The basil is the herb of the sun. Everywhere in Italy and Sicily, there's plenty of basil. Now you can get really fancy and pick it and chop it, but all I do for a dish like this is just tear it straight off. Make sure there's no stem in there, and stir it around. And you get those flavours. Look at that. And it looks great just the way it is. The greens, the peppers. The smell is fantastic. Just a touch more salt because I love salt. And I've got some paprika here, and a little bit into my pot here with the beef. Paprika gives it flavour, and it's just a lovely spice to use. You can use smoked paprika, you can use sweet paprika, you can use hot paprika. You could even use a bit of cayenne pepper. It's very similar. Now I've got some red wine. You can use white wine if you want. You don't even have to use wine, but I love the fullness of flavour that red wine gives. And what we do is, with the red wine, it sort of lifts off anything that's left over in the pan, and it gives it that adult flavour that I like. Beautiful. And this burns off the alcohol. It looks great, and straight into the pot here. Give that a stir around, and you can see this coming up to the boil straight away. I'm going to move this over to this pan pot here, so it's nice and close. And you can see that starting to bubble up. It's almost thickened up as it is. Now, I know that this rump will take about 30 minutes to cook till it's nice and tender. If you're using a cheaper cut or a secondary cut like the bowler blade or shoulder, it might take a lot longer, about an hour and a half, but the longer it takes, the better it is. I reckon for a dish like this, the cheaper the cut, the better. Now, the next thing I'm going to add is a little bit of stock. Now, if you've got beef stock or chicken stock, it doesn't really matter. You can even use water. So I'll put about a cup of chicken stock in there. Now, I've got some tomato passata, which is basically pureed up tomatoes. Nowadays you can buy it in the supermarket, but you know, I never reckon it tastes the same. The homemade stuff always tastes better to me. So I'll give that a stir like that, and I reckon in about 30 minutes, as I said, the beef will be nicely cooked, the sauce will reduce down and thicken up a little bit, and it'll be ready to finish off. I love a firm, juicy bit of rump, but then again, who doesn't? Now the rump is made up of a few muscles that do a bit of work, so the rump may have a bit more chew, but believe me, it's packed with flavour. I know it's not as sophisticated as the eye fillet, which is the most tender cut, or the sirloin, which sits somewhere in between, but I say don't ignore the rump. Just ask your friendly butcher for the pointy end. My butcher ages his rump for 3 to 4 weeks. This improves the flavour and makes it that little bit more tender. My water is boiling profusely. Now I've got my lovely torchetti pasta here. You could use fresh pasta if you want, but I love this. It's got little holes in it and little ridges that hold the sauce. It cooks fairly quickly. In it goes into my pot, and all I need to do now is put a lovely handful of salt, because pasta needs a little bit of salt in it. Give it a nice little stir to make sure it doesn't stick together. This will come back to the boil in a couple of minutes, and it'll be simmering away. It'll take about 5 to 6 minutes to cook. I still want it al dente, which means it's got a little bit underdone on the inside, but by the time it picks up all the sauce, it'll cook all the way through and it'll be delicious. You want the pasta to absorb a little bit of sauce, and the sauce is right here. It's been simmering away for about 35 minutes. I've seasoned it up. I'll have a little taste of it. My mouth is watering because I know it's going to be hot. It's hot. There's a lot of chili in there, but I love that. It just gets my mouth watering. I love that sort of flavour. All I need to do now is get some, it is hot, fresh herbs ready, wait for my pasta to cook and put it all together. And then I'll need a big glass of ice water, some cucumber, and probably some pineapple to take away this heat, because I didn't know this habanero was going to be that hot. But believe me, it's delicious. What I'm going to do now is put a little bit of coriander into my sauce. It'll go really well with the cumin that was in there before. All I need to do is just stir that in, and I like to put my coriander in at the end because it gives it that lovely fresh flavour instead of that cooked out flavour that you might get. Now my pasta's ready. All I need to do is pop it into my colander. Now be very careful if you ever do this. Often I would do this in a sink if I was at home, but I'm not at home now. Does anyone know where I am? Look at that. Straight into my pot here, and then this is the best bit. Whenever I cook pasta, a lot of people just leave it like this. I never leave it like that. I put a little bit of pepper in there, a little bit of salt, because the pasta's ready. It's waiting to absorb flavour. So now I'll put some olive oil into there, and of course, I'll put some chopped parsley. I've got some lovely, fresh, continental parsley that I'll just rough chop like this and throw that in. And I know there that my pasta is going to start absorbing that flavour. And it gets the oil in there, the steam melts the parsley. You can see it's already wilting down, but it smells great just the way it is, just like that. But I'm going to add some sauce to it, which will make it even better. So I'll bring the pot over here to my lovely Sicilian chili sauce, a couple of big ladles for it. This is a great sauce. You can pop it in the fridge or the freezer and eat it later on. But how can you wait? You've got to eat it straight away, right now. Stir that in there and let the pasta absorb the flavours of the chili. I know there's a lot of chili there, which is why my mouth is watering. I can't wait to eat this. That looks fantastic. All it needs is a little bit of cheese on top. Now this comes from the north of Italy. Here we go. The whole of Italy united together to form this one dish. Look at that. Couldn't be better. Now here's the time. Here's the moment we've been